Hi, Brother Melvin here. The purpose of this program is to pose 10 questions that will help us in the betterment of our communities and our families. The question about the 10 questions is, as you saw on the poster before this presentation, what can 10 questions do? Well, 10 questions can do a lot, amongst things like begin conversation amongst us that will lead us to some sort of solution, because nothing has ever been solved without the art of conversation and communication amongst people. So there's been 10 questions that have been advised here to where it will start us to discussing things that we need to help our community, our children, and our family. Question number 1. Why is it that young girls are getting pregnant at such an alarming rate and not even interested in finding a husband? Question number 2. Why is it we only put the young girls on Front Street when it takes two to tango? Question number 3. Is the powers that be making money from our lack of paying attention to our young people, and they're getting pregnant and going to jail at an alarming rate? Is there money to be made, and is our government making money from this particular activity in our community? Question number 4. Is the TV to blame for this activity in our community? Question number 5. Is our music to blame for this activity in our community? Question number 6. Is our government to blame for this activity in our community? Oftentimes we blame things on each other when the elected officials and the laws that they pass can be a culprit of our problems. For those of you that don't realize, we live in a time now where schools are closed more times throughout the course of the year than they are open. The result of that is that we have children hanging in the streets with nothing to do. And with nothing to do, they invent things to do. And what they invent to do isn't always to the best interest of our community, themselves, or the betterment of our families. Question number 8. What happened to God's original method of child rearing? Teach a child when they're young, and as they grow old, they will not stray from their ways. What happened to methods like that of child rearing? It would seem that children having children happened to that method, because it is a main fact that when a baby has a baby, that baby parent needs help, because they can't teach that child anything about life. Question number 9. Do we really need to find anyone to blame other than looking in the mirror at ourselves? Question number 10. Could it be the education that is available, the education that we're given? Could it be that since the government owns the education that they feed our children, that it's possible they can bend it any way that they want to better their agenda? It doesn't seem that anyone is interested in the family other than the few families that are left. And we all need to have an understanding that we are a community. And within that community lies a multitude of families that we need to pay attention to and be focused on. In that family, the strength of it may be the mother, may be the father, but the strength of them are the children. It's important that we have the understanding of how the important role that education plays in this scenario. Education can make or break you, but without it, there are no opportunities, there are no abilities, there isn't even the power or the ability to think for oneself. Education, which should not only be given in our school system, but should also be continued and maintained at home, it begins to be a problem nowadays to have an education at home, because most homes are controlled by one parent who is doing the best that they can with the working aspect and the working situation being the way it is. So therefore, the only education most of our children have are the education, or is the education, from the streets. And that doesn't always lead to anything progressive or positive. Street education leads to street life. Street life leads to jail and certain things that we really don't need our young people going into, but nevertheless they're going into at an alarming rate. Everyone seems to be on some sort of scam or some sort of scheme looking out for only themselves. The objectivity of this program and of my presentation is that that's the opposite way to go. We need to turn around and look at each other and ourselves, not necessarily in that order. Ourselves being first, because we cannot correct anything that's around us until we first correct ourselves. There's an old adage that I was raised with, that you cannot change the world. Well, I've grown to learn that you can change the world if you first start with yourself. Hitting the point that I had in the beginning of this program, the young girls need not only discipline and love, but young girls need to be talked to by a father figure that isn't always hitting on them, or it doesn't always make them feel uncomfortable, whereas they're not afraid to talk to. It doesn't always have to be a father. Young men or men need to stand up to where they can be respected by young girls and young boys. That's one thing we don't have in the streets right now, is just a mutual respect for adulthood. Yet every young person is rushing to be an adult. So many young children look older than what they are. So many young boys talk older than what they are. And all of this is coming, or at least most of it I may say, is coming from their music, the videos, their television programs, what they read. And they translate that in the community to each other. And it becomes, even though it isn't, their reality. And in their reality lies an awful lot of danger for them. We need to understand that our young people are not only our future, they are our present. And if we don't get control or recontrol of them and their thought pattern, then we all are doomed. And the only way that we can do that is to bring about discussions with questions. And with those questions, we need to spread the knowledge that we learn. There are no wrong answers. There are only positive ones. And if you latch on to the positive ones, then that is the beginning of solving this situation in our community, which is becoming very grave. And we have to grasp hold of it. The opportunity is there. The opportunity is there. The tools are there, because we have a lot of people with a lot of knowledge. So we thank you for listening to us. We thank you for just allowing us to come into your home or come on your computer and listening to our program. We're not finished. We'll be back with more thought-provoking questions. Thank you. Peace, love, and understanding.